Yesterday, my band released a live session, so what better time to talk about live sessions? So, you might have heard of live sessions, you might have seen live sessions, you might know what live sessions are. For any of you that don't know what a live session is, it is a band goes into a recording situation and gets a load of cameras and films them recording a song essentially live, at which point you then take the audio that's been professionally recorded, the video that's been professionally recorded, mash it together into one live video.
It's also kind of like a music video, but using the audio of them actually playing then, as opposed to a pre-recorded song.
Yeah, so I guess the main difference between a live shot performance video for a single and a live session is that a live shot performance video for a single would be recorded intensely to get a mastered, proper, sexy recording for the song. Then you would take that song, mime to it, so it looks like you're actually playing it live, and then you release that. It tends to be more polished. You can spend more time on the video, you can spend more time on the audio. A live session is kind of a one-take thing. Obviously you can do multiple takes, but you can't intertwine things from each take. The thing that you do for that entire thing is what the live session is. There are no overdubs, there are no real edits in terms of audio or anything like that. It is essentially a live performance, but being captured.
Some people don't really abide by that. They'll put like a backing track behind it, or they'll add extra guitar parts over it, and that kind of ruins it a little bit for me.
I guess it takes away the authenticity of it actually being live.
Yeah, that's I think is the best thing about a live session, is it's because that is authentically how they sound.
Yeah.
So there are three main ways that you can get a live session done. The first one is to do it yourself. Get a room, get some cameras, film, record.
Yeah, get your laptop and just film.
However, that has the capacity to be really shit, because unless obviously you're a really good video maker or engineer, then it's likely it's not going to be a very good product. So we wouldn't recommend doing that. The second way of doing it is going into a studio and having it professionally done. What we would recommend doing, because obviously you're going into a studio with an engineer, producer, whatever, that knows what he or she is doing, and you're probably going to get a good product out of it.
Some studios will have a video package kind of thing in with it, so they actually already have a thing that you can go to the studio and get a live session done. Some studios won't, so you might not actually be able to do a live session at any studio. It will be selected studios.
Third way of getting a live session done is by kind of having it done for you by either like a radio show, like a presenter, or by a magazine or something. Like some people will go into BBC Introducing is a thing we have in the UK, where you go into the studio and you essentially do a live session with them, which is then broadcast on radio. However, the only thing with that is that they don't give you the footage with it, so it is just the recorded sound.
There's nothing stopping you going and filming it yourself, though. If you've got some cameras, like some GoPros, your phone cameras now are really good. Set them up around the room, then you can get the video. The
BBC Radio 1 live lounges that are thrown about, they are live sessions, essentially. And obviously, because they are only these specific ones are only ever really done by press or radio, they're the hardest ones to gain access to and will likely be the highest quality.
They are, however, free.
Yes, they are.
Just to name drop a few other live sessions that you might have heard of, there are Mid-Vale sessions for Radio 6, for BBC Radio 6, and Exposed, which is a magazine in Sheffield, they do live sessions too. There are some real advantages to doing live sessions. We're not saying exclusively do live sessions, obviously do proper recordings, proper music videos, whatever, but live sessions have this kind of nice thing about them where it feels a little bit more intimate, it feels a little bit more personal, because it's a real performance. You are watching them actually perform the thing that you're listening to, rather than a music video where it's obviously either mimed or it's a story that goes along with the song, so you're not even seeing the band. But at the same time, it's so much better quality than just filming a gig.
It is, however, obviously not as good quality as having professional recordings done.
Yeah, so it's in the middle, really, with a lot of things. Like, a gig is far more personal than a studio recorded mastered song is, and kind of live session sits in the middle of those two. And in terms of quality, studio is far better, obviously live is far worse, and then live session sits in the middle again. So it's kind of like this middle of the road, kind of intimate and personal, but at the same time quite professional So it's a nice little balance that you kind of get with live sessions. It's worth saying that there's a lot of different styling options that you've got with it as well, because obviously with color grading and in terms of mixing, you can do an actual mix on the audio like you would in a normal studio. You've got less to work with because obviously you only get one take at it. There's a lot that you can do, especially in terms of branding and stuff, that you can make a live session really work for you.
It's worth mentioning as well that they are cheaper to do than studio recordings.
Yeah, mainly because it's less studio time. It's quicker to mix, it's quicker to master, it's quicker to record. You can get 4 tracks recorded, mixed, mastered in one day. Really, a few hours to record. It won't even take a few hours to mix and master because there's not much audio there. Really, you want it to feel as real and as raw as possible. So unless there's any specific effects that you want on for whatever particular reason, one mix of all of your songs will probably be good enough. Like radio do it live. Live Lounge is mixed live. They are performing as you're listening to it. So that's just testament to how kind of easy it is, I guess, to mix a live recording. So in terms of money, it's good, especially if you're just starting out, because yeah, we'd always recommend getting really good recordings, but if you can't afford £2,000 to go and record an EP in a really nice studio, for example, a live session of those tracks would be good to kind of get you by.
Yeah, it's probably better to go and do a live session than it is to go and get some shit recordings.
I would totally agree with that. Yeah.
Like, if you don't have the money to go into a good studio and get good recordings done, like if you've only got like 50 quid or something to give to one of your mates to do it in his garage, then have a live session done. You can, for 50 quid, you could probably get one song done with someone somewhere. And
I think people would be far more forgiving of a DIY sounding live session than they would a DIY demo that you're trying to present as an actual single. Because you know that it's intimate and it's happening live and it's one take, if there are slight mess-ups or it doesn't sound perfect, like, that's totally understandable. If you're going into a studio, even if it's like a DIY studio, and recording your new single and it's okay, that's like not as understandable. It should be as good as possible. A live session is far more forgiving in that thing. So when you're starting out, a live session is actually a really good thing to do. There was a band recently that, not recently, it was about a year ago now, I think, that someone who we work with was talking about, and they were saying that they were planning on launching as a band, and I was like, oh, they're going to launch with like a single or anything? They're like, no, they're launching with a live session. As soon as their social media goes live, there's going to be one track from a live session there. That's a mint idea. Because people get to listen to your music that's in theory at least performed slightly professionally, it's recorded professionally, it looks properly recorded video, so people are getting a real gist of your music, but you aren't paying for a super sexy single, because chances are you might not be able to afford it, especially if you're quite young.
Oh,
it's a fly. It's a fly.
I fucking don't like flies. Okay, so there are a lot of different things that you can use a live session for. The main one is, obviously, you put it on your Facebook, your YouTube, whatever, use it as content to show to your fans. This can be done really well to kind of fill time in between releases. If you've got a single coming out in January and you've got one coming out in June, a live session in the middle is an adequate amount of content to sustain that time.
Just while we're on that as well, there is a few different ways that you can actually present it, because say you record 4 songs, you can either put a big 20-minute video out of you playing all 4 songs in a row, or you can actually chop it up and actually release each thing as filler content separately. So like what you're saying, if you've got a single there and a single there, you don't have to release the entire live session there. You can release one video from the live session there and actually keep using it as filler throughout a year. If you do it right, like, there's a lot of kind of time that you can fill in different times of the year with the same session.
You can also use them to promote a release. So say you have an EP coming out in a few weeks, you could be like, we've done a live session of all the tracks on this EP and they're going to be dispersed in and around the time that we're releasing the EP. So you could do 2 tracks before, then the EP comes out, and then 2 of the live session tracks afterwards. That's something you could do. One of the main things that people use live sessions for now is festival applications. Most high-end festivals will want an example of you playing live, but they also don't want a shit quality video filmed on a fucking calculator that you can't really hear anything from. So a live session is really good for that, because it gives the person who works at the festival a chance to hear what you sound like in a live environment and how you behave in a live environment physically.
And again, it's a nice balance between live and studio, that is perfect for a festival application because you've got the sound of a studio with an actual live performance, which is really what a festival application ideally wants.
And saying that, you can use it for all of the above. You can use a live session for whatever the hell you want. And chances are, because it is such a middle ground between a gig and a recording, it'll usually work quite well.
There is a fly flying around. If we keep like looking, it's because there's a fly flying around. Another use. I don't know if we got this in the notes, but like I don't know if we've got this in the notes or anything, but it's Joe.
I'm just getting ready.
Right. Okay.
Continue.
Like I don't know if we got this in the notes, but like what we're planning on doing a bit further down the line is that you can then take the audio from the live session, combine it into like a mini EP or something, and actually call it as like a, I don't know, your band name. So then you could call it something like your band name live at, and then whatever recording studio did it or anything like that, and actually do it as like a release. But it's obviously a live release, but it's kind of like a little live EP that you could put out. Make it some artwork and like job done.
You could also just take the audio from one of the tracks and put it as a B-side to a proper single. A lot of big bands have done that, where they have single and then live version of a single or live version of another track.
Some bands will, when they've done an album, will do a deluxe version of the album, where they've actually then got like a live album of the same album on after as well. Like there's was it Royal Blood or I think Slaves, the deluxe version of their debut album had live versions of thing. I think they're actually done at BBC Radio 1 at their live lounge. There's a lot that you can do with a live session. It's arguably the most diverse release that you could do because there's so much that you could do that you can split it up and put it in different things. You can use it as just filler content as a video. You can use it and compile it into an EP. You can use it as a B-side for an actual single. You can use it as a little EP that you release digitally, that you release physically, that you just use for social media content. There is so much you can do with just a live session. I suppose the last point, if we haven't already persuaded you to do your own live session, that it's just kind of cool to have, to just, it feels nice to just have a little live session there.
You can use it as like watching yourself and see how you behave in your performance, or like self-assessment.
Yeah, you can use it as feedback, but it's actual like professionally filmed feedback rather than gig footage, I guess. And there's also no limit to how many live sessions that you do. You could, with every single release, like physical, actual like recorded release, you could do a live session alongside every single one, and that'd be totally fine. Put it on your YouTube. Maybe, I don't know, work with a YouTube channel like Punktastic and actually put your live sessions out on Punktastic or whatever. There's a load of stuff that you can do with a live session. And if you didn't know about them before, I hope that you now do and that you're interested because they're cool. And we haven't really mentioned them before on the channel. Not really. We mentioned them when we talked about festivals and stuff. But other than that, we've never even mentioned it. And we probably should have. And now we have. If you are interested in seeing the live session that we've done, we've released one song from it yesterday. I will link that at the end of the video. I'll link it here. If you want to see more from this series, it's also on the screen. Have a good week. We will see you on Wednesday.